Very, very warm welcome to all of you to this first session of the second day. I'm not going to introduce the speakers. They genuinely need no introduction, and anyway the introductions are there on the books that have been circulated. So the topic today is going to be on technology and how technology and AI is going to impact the tax practice and chartered accountants and advocates in particular. So as we know, technology is pervading in every area of our existence. And today it has become ubiquitous with the way of life, the modern way of life. And the new buzzword, of course, is artificial intelligence. What do you mean by artificial intelligence? It means computer systems or machines that can perform tasks which were typically associated with human intelligence. So we can now talk about a carbon-based human intelligence as opposed to artificial intelligence, which is silicon-based. Alan Turing proposed in 1950 that machines can think, and he propagated the idea that given enough information and reasoning, machines could solve problems that normally human beings would be solving. And that was the beginning of this concept, and since then it has been a long journey, and today there have been tremendous conceptual, scientific, mathematical advances in the computer and the amount of data that it can store and process. Even today, while I was discussing in a couple of papers, most people believe that machines cannot replace human beings completely, because when judgment is required, the human beings will come in. But there is another school of thought, and that's a point to remember. And they believe that with the amount of data that can be processed and the capability is increasing, it is possible that in future machines will be better even at judgment. In other words, the amount of data available with them and the processing power available, they can take better informed decisions as compared to human beings. And we are seeing that actually happening in so many fields. In fact, in a lighter vein, the other day somebody was saying that my smartphone understands me better than my spouse does. But that's just a beginning. It is vital for us as tax professionals, therefore, to understand the capabilities of information technology, its limitations, which we will discuss today, and the potential applications that we as chartered accountants and tax practitioners can put it to apply. Generally, we believe that we are the domain experts in tax, and we represent the client and the tax authorities in doing tax work. But I think times are changing. As we discussed yesterday, would you be able to file returns, or is a competition coming from software which can file the return even more efficiently? And in any case, as you grow, you will have to perhaps collaborate with data scientists, technology experts, and AI specialists in order to do the work. And I think that is a writing that small practitioners must understand. We are going through a technology revolution of a scale larger than anything else, larger than perhaps the Industrial Revolution. And AI is there, and it's going to raise very interesting questions and dilemmas about how we are going to sort of navigate this uncharted territory. And there are going to be ethical concerns also. In fact, some people say that the ethical concerns are so strong that one must moderate and hold back the AI revolution, because there could be existential threat to humanity. But I guess there are naysayers for every new innovation that always happens. The advent of technology will also result in new legal framework to be developed. As always, technology is far ahead than the legal framework, and that is something which again we will discuss about how the legal framework should evolve, because there are going to be liability laws that will have to be formed, intellectual property rights, copyrights issues will emerge, again ethical issues will emerge. Just the other day we read about New York Times, which has sued Microsoft because it says that it has used material for ChatGPT without its permission. So material from the archives of New York Times have been used. Humans have their own biases. Will machine take away that bias? Because again, the machine can have its own bias. The programming, the training that you do, the data that you feed into it can create a bias, and that can be endemic and even more potent. So that's another concern that happens. And machines are fundamentally probabilistic in their approach, which means they analyze data, lots of data, and produce a response based on patterns and statistical correlations. Now, we know machines can make mistakes. They're getting much better and better as time goes by, but they can make mistakes. Anybody who has used ChatGPT realizes that machines, it can be used brilliantly, but you can't rely on it absolutely blindly because sometimes it comes up with wrong analysis. And if it does, if a machine is used, and we'll discuss that, who is to be blamed? Take a typical example of a driverless car. What happens if it's an accident? Is the car to be blamed? Is the passenger sitting in the car to be blamed? Is the manufacturer of the car to be blamed? Is the software programmer to be blamed? I think this can be interpolated into a tax system and said that if you are using AI, how would that happen? And as I said, technology can make mistakes. And sometimes AI technology can make very strong assertions, confident assertions about things which are obviously untrue. I'm told in the AI world it is called artificial intelligence hallucination. So we are going to have a very interesting discussion today. We have brilliant people on the panel, but who knows, when BCA celebrates its 100th year, we may have an artificial intelligence machine on the panel also, along with speakers. Who knows, we may have machines in the audience, because they will want to absorb the information that is happening, make the neural connections, and then become more intelligent in their future endeavors. But for today, we have two of the best carbon-based brains, and we are going to have a very interesting discussion today. I will now, the format of the discussion is going to be, I will invite Pinakin Bhai to give his opening remarks, and then Nishith Bhai to give the remarks, and then we will have 30-35 minutes of Q&A, a panel discussion. So thank you very much, and let us begin by Pinakin Bhai, your opening remarks.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you, Shariq, for the good words. You mentioned about the AI audience at the end of another 25 years, but you will just have an audience, you don't require a convention center. AI will be sitting somewhere at home or might be moving and listening to what is being said from somewhere. Now you may wonder, before I begin, as to why is it that on a subject of technology, 70 plus 2 panel speakers have been selected. And I think the only reason why Shariq mentioned was in our own interest. The BCA's mantra on the logo, when you find, it reads, Na Bhayam Cha Asti Jagratam. One who is aware, one who is awake, he need not fear anything, and it was necessary for at least me and Nishith to understand something on what AI is, to the text professional practice in particular, and to the society in general. Now, by way of introductory remarks, let me begin with why the buzz today of artificial intelligence. We have been using Uber for a long, long time. It was an intelligent tool. We have also been using certain other technologies, and they have been there. For example, Google. If I were to tell Google that I want to find out the mental state of affairs of Gandhiji on the day he conducted the Dandi Kuch, we'll have the literature available to tell us 20 different articles dealing with the subject, and I can write an essay thereon. So what is the difference between that intelligence and the intelligence that we are talking today? Now, when it comes to Uber, it is more in the nature of a predictive intelligence that based on the statistical analysis, based on the patterns, based on the trends, you are in a position to predict, just as in a live cricket match, we find that predicted score is likely to be so and so. It takes into account the people who are there, the history of the people, number of overs left, the going is good or bad, and will give us something which is predictive. Same is the case with Uber. When it comes to Google, it is the pre-programmed and the pre-fed data which is being thrown open. It doesn't create a new content. It will accumulate everything which is available on the subject that I want, leaving it to me to fabricate or create a content. As opposed to that, we are now talking about the generative intelligence. Generative AI is something which generates new content. It's not what is pre-programmed, but it throws up something which was not envisaged by you. So what happens is that just as a student may be trained right from the school days, and he might be told to refer to the data, he might be trained on a variety of subjects by different gurus or different teachers, and his logic may be developed, his intelligence may be channelized. In the same manner, there will be learning by the AI tool, by the process of machine learning, deep learning on our data which is sitting inside on a certain platform. Now it is this generative AI which is catching attention. OpenAI began, and now we know, as of today, Microsoft has given a news that every laptop and every cell phone will have a facility of a co-pilot of artificial intelligence. So I can work on my Excel, I can work on my Word, together with artificial intelligence as an add-on feature which is available. So the life is going to be interesting. Let me just take a couple of examples, and Shariq also referred to the same. What I'm meaning is that the artificial intelligence generated has the capacity that it will read something which is available in a text form. That text may be in English, that text may be in Sanskrit. It will read, interpret, and understand the text, but the result that it will produce will be in the nature of an image, or in the nature of a video, or in the nature of a PowerPoint presentation. Exactly the opposite, it will be able to read a video or an image or a PowerPoint presentation and convert something into a text, because the output that I want has to be a textual form. If I was on my way to this conference, and if Shariq had phoned me to say that you need to be ready with a PowerPoint presentation only, and I have 20-30 minutes to left out. If there is a well-developed tool available, which is an assumption we are making, and if I am savvy on the technology, I will be able to tell the tool that I am going to a conference where the theme is this, the object is this, the audience is this, the subject is this, the questions which I want to deal with are this, my views favorable or unfavorable are this. Why don't you develop a PowerPoint presentation for me? And by the time that I reach here, I find that the PowerPoint presentation would be ready. If there is a Teams call and AI is one of the participants on the Teams call, it will listen to everybody who is there on the Teams call, and even before the call has ended, it will be ready with the minutes of the meeting, which will be fairly very accurate. It can produce a movie which is specifically tailor-made to my requirements, and I can enjoy the same. And if we go back while we'll refer to how does it help the text practice in particular in a little while later. But if we go back, the story of Matrix movie would be something which is quite interesting. 20, 30 years back, we were told something which is imagined, something which is visualized. It appeared to be a fascination that there is an intelligent tool which is taking over the human fraternity itself. Even the reproductive system of human is taken over. Human is under the control of the tool. Today we are talking about a servant which is assisting me, but that movie visualizes that the artificial intelligence in itself becomes the master and not the servant. What those days will be, I don't know. It could be 20, 25 years ahead of this. And I end with another such imagination. If we refer to Rajinikanth movie Robo, it gives an advantage or a disadvantage of what a robo intelligence could be. If there is a fire and somebody is required to be saved, which is what the robo does, then it gives us an information that in a disaster management, a robo could be quite more effective than a fireman. The risk is far lesser. But then what happens? Having saved the lady from fire, a nude lady is kept open in the farm before the entire crowd and she commits a suicide. Now this is an angle, namely that while AI understands the job which is to be done, it lacks the human emotions, the human values, and it can therefore have results which are disastrous. I think this is from me good enough as general introduction to what we are going to deal with. I would go back to Nishith for his introductory comments. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Pinakin Bhai. If any one of us had a doubt as to why Pinakin Bhai, who he claims to be over 70 years, was invited, I think those doubts would have been settled by now. Nishith Bhai?
Good morning. Wake up. Okay. Thank you so much, Pinakin Bhai and Shariq, for your introductory remarks. Absolutely on the spot. So left very little for me to add. But all that I would like to say at this point in time is that we are not aware, possibly, that artificial intelligence has almost reached human intelligence level. And that is why you see whole saga of OpenAI that happened. Okay? Because ethical issues are now coming to the fore. The AI life that we are going to live, what it is going to be like next 100, 200 years. We talked about 100 years of BCA, we'll be hopefully there to attend the celebrations, because most of the body parts are now available, about 80-90% in stores. Bioengineering is taking over along with AI, so you can replace any body part. But the way in which I look at, like in next 200 years, would people have brains at all in the mind, or will have brainless babies produced? Why? Because what is not used is often lost. We were all monkeys at one point of time. We had tails, and tails acted as antennas. It will tell you rain is likely to happen, some heat wave is going to happen, and animals drive their behavior because of antennas called tails. But as things evolved, monkeys became human beings, but there are no tails because you don't need tail. So if the artificial intelligence becomes your brain, babies would have no brains. So next 200 years expect maybe even, who knows, 25, 30 years, with all the CRISPR and other technologies that are coming up, you can have designer babies. I don't know if some of you have heard. You'll be able to have face of a girl or a boy which is square, triangle, whatever shape you want, So where should limits be? If some of you are interested in the subject, you can look at our paper on designer babies and what are the ethical issues that are going to come. So it's going to be physical and the virtual world combined together is going to create new Mayajal. So similarly, I think Shariq mentioned about driverless car. Okay. What will be the legal issue? Legal issue would be who should you hold responsible, right? Because normally, if car meets with an accident, and when the court case goes on, you are able to show intentionality. I never intended to kill, but something happened. He came in between the, on the road and hit. If I would not have done that, passenger would have been killed, or I killed passenger without being careful. Now here you will have to pre-program that if somebody comes in front of a car, okay, car will not stop. It will move on because I have to save my passenger in the back seat. Okay. Or you'll have to pre-program that passenger may get killed, but I'll break it, So a lot of issues that are going to be coming up to fore would relate to intentionality. And because here you have to think ahead of time and decide that I'll kill this person or not. How do you deal with that situation? So many interesting issues. Algorithms will be able to tell you your emotions. Okay. So for example, somebody in North Korea, you go there, right? And he smiles or he doesn't smile, but his behavior will tell the authorities that he actually really respects you or he really wants to do something else. So he is with you or he is not with you. And therefore there could be a lot of compromises on the artificial intelligence if it is not controlled. Another point, and on which we have written quite a bit, is the most dangerous side of artificial intelligence is with autonomous weapons. Okay. We have all been very excited about autonomous vehicles and autonomous, all this robotics and stuff like that. But real danger is in autonomous weapons. I can perhaps have a bullet on which I can write your name or a number, and it will go and find you and hit you if I pull the trigger, So you can see the danger of compromising privacy depending on who the person in control of that is. And that is why all the time you talk about privacy. In India, we hardly understood privacy because the concept did not exist. My neighbor knew everything about me. Okay. My friends knew everything about me. But now it is becoming automated. And if a wrong government gets this kind of data in hand, you can imagine what happens. And autonomous weapons have no heart, no soul, and therefore we'll have to have some kind of a treaty. Already some work is in progress, but we have to put limits ourselves. We shape the world that we want. And so we have to contain the dangers or the downside of artificial intelligence on one side. On the other side, we have to maximize the potential. I think this is a challenge, and the most important role will be played by professionals. I think people like you, all here, chartered accountants, lawyers, and we all have to come together and see what kind of world we want to shape in the coming times. So we have very interesting role going forward. I believe that in the coming times, and already it has happened, compliances will become automated. Next 5 years, we will see with blockchain and other technologies, agreements will become autonomous. They are called self-executing contracts. Some of you already know about it more than me. So not only that, already tools are out where negotiations will be done by AI. So our role to that extent will come down. So what is left for us? Crisis management, ethical issues or ethical advice, okay? And, developing the new regulations for new technologies that are coming up, whether it is blockchain, bitcoins, whatever. All this put together is going to create a new world. But age is going to become irrelevant. Thank you. So age is what? There is chronological age, there is physical age, there is biological age, there is psychological age. Okay. So we also need to define age or redefine age. But that's all going to allow people to live longer and longer. Okay. In fact, lifespan has already exceeded what it used to be. If you see old 100 years ago, a lot of people popped off around 40, 50 years. Okay. Now it's almost double. Okay. In the coming times, it will be even more. So it has good side and its bad side. Good people, if they live longer, is good. Bad people living too long could have its own problem. But all these kind of things that we are going to see, we have a huge role to play, and professionals particular, I think we'll all have to converge on some ethical issues. That's the most important role that we are going to be playing. And I don't think I need to talk too much at the moment because we are almost, almost 10, 15 minutes left. So let's work on. But anytime any question is there, most welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nishith. So I had thought about designer babies. Nishith Bhai has now come up with the idea of a brainless baby. It's a scary proposition. I think we've had a good macro level understanding of what AI and this artificial intelligence and technology is going to be. Let us now drill down more towards what it would impact in our tax practice and so on. So, Pinakin Bhai, first, very straightforward question. AI is going to be there. We have to grapple with AI. We have to grapple with technology. How can we as professionals use it to improve our efficiency and reduce the cost of compliance? Is that possible?
Okay. Yeah, fine. Yeah, Shariq, understandably, the way we function will be wholly different. So whether we refer to our client company or we refer to our CPA Chartered Accountant Office, there is likely to be an overlap of the applications to which AI will be subjected. A very basic advantage why AI will become very, very popular would be that AI is a tool which runs 24/7. It is an assistant in the office recruited without salary. It doesn't have paternity leave, doesn't have maternity leave. It has superb memory. If you have given some instructions 5 years back to the tool, it will remember it after 5 years that, look, be careful, this is what you told me 5 years back, why don't you cross-check whether it is available or not? It has the advantage of the speed with which it is working. It can do multitasking. So if there is a job to be conducted, 10 jobs at a time for 10 different people can be conducted by a tool. On account of all that, AI is going to catch fire is what we can understand over a period. Now, on what type of applications a CA office or a company can use it, in a way it is anybody's guess because we are going to get innovative applications as we go along. But in the limited knowledge which we have today, let's think of what are the possible applications which one can have. We can divide them into normal, routine or repetitive applications. They can be far advanced applications and they can be semi-skilled applications. So in the routine applications, we'll have something like payroll accounting or TDS returns, GST returns, income returns, etc. We will also have some routine types of agreements or memorandum articles. It will have fair intelligence to say that in the memorandum charter which you have prepared, these clauses in the circumstances of the case must be looked into which have been overlooked. Now this will be some fundamental applications. Far advanced applications could be that if I am a global company looking at breaking my vertical into two and thereafter combining with another global company, there are 20, 30 countries involved, and I want to find out in 10 minutes that the restructuring plan which I have fed into the machine, will it have VAT implications in any of the 20 countries? What will be pillar 2 implications after the plan is implemented? And it will take 10 minutes for it to provide an answer. When I come to some normal semi-skilled applications, one would be a case law research for which I can use AI. Taxman, for example, has everything fed into the computer. There is a problem statement which is given to the tool that these are the facts of the case. Can you tell me whether income is chargeable or not chargeable? And if proper instructions or clues are given, it will say that looks like it is chargeable. These are the case laws. These are the limitations. And you can now take a view whether you think it is chargeable. It can draft replies to the notices which are given or submissions which are required to be drafted. And similarly, I think companies will prefer this. To take a concrete example, there is case of a company where 3,000 repairs related debit vouchers were provided to the tool. And they say, we want to find out whether by any chance any capital expenditure has gone into this. So with instructions it came out, wherever the words fabrication, construction, etc. were used, 30, 40 vouchers were set aside for an auditor to verify in this direction. So auditors' sampling techniques will also change completely. While auditor will not be replaced, we will find that the techniques will change. And today the ERP systems of the companies are not well equipped to integrate AI tool, but a year hence onwards, we will find that companies will be quite equipped to implement this.
Thank you, Pinakin. So I think lots of interesting thoughts there, and I can think of a lot of follow-up questions, and I will come back to those questions. But Nishith bhai, for you, the first question is that, again, obviously AI and technology is going to be used in our practice as lawyers, as chartered accountants. So you mentioned that, but what are the legal and regulatory concerns that will emerge when we start using that technology and adopting that AI technology into our practice?
Yeah, to be very quick, 4 points. Right. Number one, liability issues, In the event of AI-generated errors or malpractices or in professional services, right, may result in the claims of professional negligence. I think this is one thing. And all of you will have to take insurance, and when you buy tools, also try to negotiate with the vendor that they have insurance to cover for their errors, because their errors will impact you. So reading insurance policy is very important today. And the most important thing that insurance companies do is to wriggle out and say, you are not covered, you are not covered there. Second thing, always keep your insurance policy handy. This lesson I learned, especially when Satyam event happened, many of the directors were under impression that they are already insured. When the whole saga happened, suddenly they were being arrested and legal fees were running into crores, and they said we're insured, but where is insurance policy? They're not ready. So it is very important to make sure that, you have well-organized insurance policies. At the same time, you negotiate, otherwise you will end up paying premiums. And whole profession, we know, even global basis or otherwise, now everybody has global clients, So liability goes beyond your own jurisdiction. We cannot remain in a myth that, okay, there will be nobody filing lawsuit against us. So that is the first issue about the liability. Because again, AI can also produce inaccurate results. And I don't have time, but I can tell you stories how things have happened. And but it is very important that human mind is applied at the time of really using. Don't just leave it to AI alone, because sometimes we do that, right? Second is data privacy and cybersecurity is another important point we need to bear in mind. Because if any confidential information of client and all this law, tax, everything that is inputted in the public source AI model, then you can have major problem because compromising on confidentiality provisions. And it will be particularly problematic if cybersecurity measures fail. Then again we have a liability. So that's second point. Third point is litigation. That in case of law firms and accounting firms, litigating, advising on foreign jurisdiction, which I just pointed me, they must be mindful of AI-related sectoral regulations in those foreign jurisdictions. So there may be sectoral, how the robot should be. For example, in fact, one thing I want to say, and we need to perhaps work on that, whether a robot should be conferred a separate personality. Because beyond a point, I have no control over it. So like 200 years ago, if I spoke to somebody that, there should be some kind of a company and it should have limited liability, people will say, what, you're smoking some funny thing, right? So I think we need to now also provide some personality, and that robots will pay tax also, by the way. That is another theory that is coming up. So you have more clients to work on. And at the same time, just be mindful of that. And finally, unlicensed practice, again, because you talked about professional liability. So, for example, in India also, drafting of a contract or other kind of thing, okay, is the prerogative of lawyers. Supreme Court and others have said that. Many of you know about the practice of law that has been defined. Drafting or negotiating contracts. It's a licensed practice, basically, right? Now, if AI begins to do that, what happens? And that is something that one needs to bear in mind. But as I said, that if you apply your mind, I think, and take responsibility for that, that's the thing.
So a quick follow-up question to you, Nishith bhai. If we use AI technology, a taxpayer uses AI technology in doing his compliance work and goes wrong, can the taxpayer sort of rely on the doctrine of reasonable cause and say, I have relied, because as you said, machine, and I remember rightly, if I may not, that even the concept of giving citizenship to robots has been in place now. So I think but can that reasonable cause question be taken up and saying that?
Definitely, and it would depend on the language of the law, like our 273B of the Income Tax Act, right? It talks about reasonable cause and penalty not to be imposed in certain cases. So how it is worded, we have to be careful about it. So, but definitely you can rely on that, provided you have done enough due diligence on that tool. Without application of mind, somebody comes and offers you something and you start using it without even trying to see how good it is, or some due diligence about its reliability will be very important to work on.
So Pinakin bhai, you mentioned about various tools that can be utilized in different capacities and all that. From a tax practitioner's point of view, do you still believe that it is possible that it will replace the traditional practice, which means all of us cannot just do compliance. Yesterday somebody mentioned that filing a tax return will be done by a software now. You can't do it. So the compliance part of it goes out and you can only be advisory firm in the short run. In the long run, maybe even more changes will happen. But how do small and medium firms, particularly in smaller cities and towns who are heavily reliant upon pure compliance work, how will they manage, survive, and what are the challenges?
Yeah, if you are thinking in terms of replacement, that whether, say, an auditor's firm will be replaced, I think answer would be no. The auditor is not likely to be replaced. It is only the audit technique which is likely to be replaced, because the question of accountability will still survive. The report which has to be published has to be that the auditor believes it's a true and fair view. And here I would agree with what Nishith mentioned, that while relying on a doctrine of reasonable cause, I should first do due diligence whether the tool on which I am relying is in itself reliable or not. So in terms of practice, you will have different types of practice. I don't think that the routine work will change, because that work will continue to be done by a chartered accountant office, but it will be now using the tools for the purpose of performing the work. But you will find replacement might take place in the recruitment and in the retention of the staff. That if there are people who are now adapting themselves or upskilling themselves to technology, they will probably continue. Those who are not willing to adapt themselves to technology, they might need to find a way out. But I agree with you to an extent that for a small firm also, if they are well equipped with technology, a single individual proprietary firm, if it is excellent in terms of knowledge of technology, can compete with a bigger size firm, because he can as equally provide business advisory services which may not till today be his domain on a very large scale. And you will find service providers coming in. So for routine jobs, possibly service provision will be available at a certain cost. So just as payroll accounting was taken over a few years back, returns are taking over today. So India in a way might be in an advantageous position that if the youth is able to catch up with technology, whereas the age profile of other countries may not adapt the technology, then there will be outsourcing of the work in favor of those who are technologists.
I just add one point here, and just to echo what you said, technology is the greatest social leveler. It allows you to compete with the global player. It allows global player to play with the individual. But I think somewhere along the line, it is a great enabler. So how we use it, and my suggestion is that, the new generation must be adept to the future technologies. You have to learn today, because tsunami of technology comes so fast that otherwise a lot of routine work will be done by ChatGPT. Because even today, many of the senior 70-year-old professionals, right, or young professionals, whatever, if you want something, instead of asking an assistant, you just ask ChatGPT. Not only that, for example, we have developed internal NIDA called, it's called, a firm's name is Nishith, Desai Associates, and AIDA. It also aggregates all the knowledge of internal, advice that we have given in the past. So one is the public source which ChatGPT uses and gives you information. But internal ChatGPT is also very important, because often we say we have 100, 200, 1,000 years experience, but really how do we use it? Whereas this internal ChatGPT will allow you to know what was happening in the past and what should be your advice. So I think this kind of tools will really help small firms, and it will be very useful to train people on those kind of things.
So Pinakin, you mentioned there that, artificial intelligence is about statistical correlation, about analyzing, looking at trends and then determining. So take a situation where the judge is also now an AI intelligent person, which means you are using past trends and all that to come to a decision. A judgment is passed based on the database available. Will that result in sort of man-made law not evolving at all because that intuitiveness goes away and you are only relying on past trends to come to a new judgment? That means innovative or new judgments which are changing with societal change will not happen? Or will AI be also able to, you talked about generative AI. Will that be able to replace that kind of thing also? What do you think?
If we refer to generative AI at its best, I think which is in a way our dream today, it's something which is innovating. I would say the experiments and trials have begun. So it's little far away. So generative intelligence will be able to generate something new on the basis of what is already available, and it's not a predictive intelligence. But if you are referring to, say, a AI-driven order which is passed by the Supreme Court, very many interesting results will follow. First of all, could it be said to be a Supreme Court order at all? Is it AI-driven order or is it the Supreme Court order? In case of a patent application or a copyright application, it has been denied on the ground that AI idea is not a natural human idea, unless, as Nishith said, robo itself is considered to be a person. So, Constitution today says Supreme Court order is binding. And somebody will say this is AI order, not Supreme Court order, so it's not binding. Let's assume that the Constitution is amended. Then, if it is going to be AI order at its best, do you require a Supreme Court? Do you require the judges? Do you require the hierarchy of the appeal? Every matter straight away goes only to the Supreme Court, and in 15 minutes you have a judgment which is available. It puts an end to litigation. But I think that's going to be far, far away. Things will have to be tested. Due diligence, as Nishith emphasized, on what is the data which has gone into before I rely on it. How has it been trained? Is it trained impartially? Is it trained without any bias? Is it exhaustive enough? Can it take into account the societal changes? I believe, as at the moment, no. It has only to be a tool. I don't think that a judgment along the line of Article 370 or LGBT community can be available, or Keshwanand Bharati ratio would be available on the basis of the AI tool. We have known that a US lawyer quoted certain cases from AI tool. They did not exist. He lost his bar license in the process. So that's the stage at which we are. And Chief Justice Bobde, when he advocated use of tool, he himself said, we are going to use it as an assistant, as a research weapon, rather than something on the basis of which a judgment is going to be formulated. Yeah.
I think we'll take a few questions now from the audience. As again, AI has been used here, we have questions, the questions have been rated by you and so on. One of the questions, Nishith, is, are legislators, judiciary and tax authorities ready to face and accept AI-based evidence in current scenario?
I think they have very little option. Okay. So whether they are willing or not willing is a matter of individual choice. But there are bureaucrats who are extremely good and very dynamic. So I would not generalize in one way. But at the moment, people are just learning about new technology, its applications, the pluses and minuses. On one day it's so exciting, and second day it becomes so disastrous, And so I believe that one thing I have seen in last 5, 10, 15 years is that the speed at which bureaucrats learn new thing has also improved significantly. So we should not assume that they are behind us, but no doubt they have limitations. I think there's some echo. So there are limitations to the whole thing. In fact, what is going to happen is people will use a lot of predictive technology. With reasonable degree of certainty, I can predict if my case comes before a particular judge, okay, what is likely outcome. So AI will not only look at his past judgments, but it will look at his speeches and other things, and where is his mindset. If you remember, how did we counsels worked on in the court of law, right, earlier? We know at that point of time, say, labor law was a major issue, and are you in favor of management or are you in favor of labor? A lot of bias was in favor of, now things have changed, okay? Tenant versus landlord. Most of the judgments used to go in favor of tenants at one time. Now that is changing. So same way, you can, with all this psychology combined with technical information, you can with reasonable certainty predict, like Google, okay, you want to come to one destination or the other, it will tell you with reasonable certainty, I'll stop here, you know how much time it is going to, it is almost certain. But this morning, Google told me it will take 40 minutes to come and I came in 15 minutes. Yeah. So, anyway, so I don't want to go too long, I think.
Yeah, so Pinakin bhai, this is a question which a lot of people want to know. Technology is a buzzword, no doubt about it, and tax authorities are using them extensively. I mean, today we have seen notices in Black Money Act coming from so many people, and in every way, they are getting from TDS, banking segment, GST. How do taxpayers cope with it, and how is the department going to take this to the next level? I mean, what kind of evidence, even from the, now the social media evidence has been used.
Yeah.
So what happens? Quickly, and then we'll have some quick fire questions.
Correct. Is there an echo? Or do I go back here?
It's working. It's working.
Fine. On data collection, I think department is within its right to collect the data. So if you are asking a question, whether department can collect data or not, I think certainly department has a right for bona fide purposes to collect data. It could be from bankers, it could be from other countries, it could be from GST, customs, whatever. The challenge lies in utilization of the data which has been collected. So based on data which is collected, data, whether it is an evidence, will take an analysis on the part of the tax authority. So say, for example, from a social media chat, an information is received that XYZ is possibly owning 2 properties in London. Now, this is not a data on the basis of which you can conduct any inquiry against the taxpayer or you can make an assessment. But if supposing I have information that XYZ purchased the property, I tally the information with the stamp duty record, name is the same, address is the same, PAN number is the same, but it's not reflected in return of income of XYZ. Now a notice could be issued, but they may come up and explain that it is held as a trust or as an executor, and the return of the trust or the executor reflects that property, then it cannot result into an assessment. So on data inquiry and collection, I think we should be liberal, but on use, we have to be judicious. But department, having said that, has been in many cases using it very excellent manner. There is a reported case that in order to find out whether agricultural income is wrong, satellite photos and prints of land extending over last 5 years were taken and produced. Before the SSC was confronted with that the satellite pictures show this to be just barren land for 5 full years, how can there be agricultural income? Now, that would be the advantage of intelligence.
Right. So, I think we have more or less run out of time, but the top question that has been asked here is some books and material to be read. I won't ask that question. Maybe you have some material, you can give it to the, and we will circulate that.
Sure,
but a final last question to both of you, and quick answers. Is AI a bane or a boon?
I believe it's double-edged sword, okay? And one has to be careful on both sides. So it is a boon if we contain the bad actors and the bane part of it. It will be possible with the AI itself to contain itself. So I believe that I am more optimistic about AI than pessimistic. But at the same time, we just need to be very mindful of that.
Either way, you have to live with AI.
Yeah.
Pinakin bhai?
No, I would completely agree with...
Sorry.
I would completely agree with Nishith. I think it's making use even of a pen. What you write is important. If you can write a beautiful letter, that's one way a pen can be used. And there is another way where you can write a hate speech and publish in the articles. So nothing is wrong with the pen as such, but it's the usage and the ethical manner in which it is being used. So if somebody tells me that for a disaster management or for finding out leakage of water and electricity in any part of the country, AI can be used, it is something which is excellent. So it is the oversight which is becoming important, because deep fake photographs, frauds, etc. are also becoming order of the day. But maybe some frauds will continue to remain. Even on oral talks, there are frauds which are committed. On large scale, if there are frauds, everybody will have to be vigilant and see to it that we channelize it to proper purpose.
I think, thank you very much. It's been a fantastic session, and I guess anybody who has any doubt about 70-year-old or no, and as Nishith bhai said, age is just a number. It depends on the which way you look at it. I would just end by saying that, there are a lot of limitations or a lot of concerns with AI, but it's a technology which is going to happen. We have to learn and see how we can adapt it to the maximum. You mentioned about a lot of things about, how AI and artificial intelligence or chat GPT can be used, and you can prepare something while in your car and the PPT is ready. I am sort of ending with a story that my wife told my son that, tomorrow is grandmother's 80th birthday, and be prepared with something that you have to say. And next day he came up with a beautiful poem which he recited in front of everybody. And everyone was thrilled that how did you manage to do it in just a few hours? He said, I just typed in 10 parameters of my grandmother, which I know, her characteristics, her likes, her dislikes, her interests, her achievements, and ChatGPT came up with a beautiful poem. So it can be used in a very, very interesting manner. So thank you all for a very wonderful session. Thank you both for a very wonderful session.